Hey guys, let's talk about graphing polynomial graphs like this. So we have y equals 5x plus 3 minus x cubed. So we're going to do a couple things. One is that we're going to do a relatively big chart like this. So I just picked some values here for x, and notice when I pick those, I do like to pick 0. I like to pick some positive numbers, and I also want to pick some negative numbers. I'm pretty partial to 0, 1, and 2, and -1 and -2. Of course, I could use 3 and -3 or larger numbers if I needed to. But generally, I don't like to use bigger numbers because then my y values are going to be huge or small, and then I have a hard time graphing it on the x and y axis. But if I had to do one of these, I might want to use just an entire piece of graph paper to do it carefully, slowly, and accurately. So that's a good idea. So anyway, what I'm doing is putting this 0 in every place here for x and then doing the math. You want to be careful with that. That's where most people make mistakes. So the order of operations is supreme, and you need to do a good job here. I've double checked these. These are right. So when you put 0 in, you get 3 for y, so forth and so on. And I've even taken the liberty to go ahead and plot these points over here. Now, if I follow this, so I've got a point here, 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 there, and there. So I could connect these. Let me connect these and try to film at the same time. So it's going to look something like this. It's coming down. Oops. Let me make sure this is going to work. So this is coming down. There we go. Coming up and then like that. So down. Yeah, kind of like that. So the graph looks like that. So that's one of the things you can do. Now there's a couple things. First of all, you should notice that when you have a negative x to the third power or an x to an odd power and it's negative, then this is going to be the shape that you have. If it were a positive x cubed, then it would come this way and go like that. So keep that in mind. So when you have a negative x cubed, it's going to come decrease and then increase and then decrease. And so there's a chart in most books that addresses whether you have a leading coefficient that's negative or a leading coefficient that's positive, and whether or not you have an odd exponent that is your degree. So the degree of this equation is 3 because that's the largest exponent. And so you have a situation with odd exponents and you have a situation with even exponents, and it is very important that you learn those distinctions. I would take a picture of that chart in your textbook if you have a textbook. If you don't, I would Google that. But to have a chart that you look at and that you can refer to. Now that's one thing. Now the other thing you can do is you can type this into a graphing calculator like that right there. So I just typed that in. And then you can graph, and that's a good way to kind of compare notes. You know, does that look the same? So if your teacher lets you use a graphing calculator, that's a great way to kind of double check. And then you can also hit second and table, and you can look at your table of values here just to kind of double check that your table's right. Or if you just even had trouble calculating, you could use this table on your calculator to do a lot of that for you. So this is graphing polynomial equations that have higher degrees. And so hopefully this is helpful a little bit. That's what I would do. So I would do the chart. I would try to graph. I would use my knowledge of different exponents, odd or even, and negative leading coefficient or positive leading coefficient. And then last but not least, if the teacher allows, I would type it into my calculator and graph it and make sure that there's agreement in what it looks like. And I would even use this table feature to help me out. One little bit of advice, you can hit second and table set, and you can start your table at whatever number you want to. So you can type right over the top of that. So mine's starting at -1. The delta table is what are the increments for the x values changing. Most of the time we have this on 1. So that means it's going to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and that sort of thing. You can change that to be decimal numbers if you need to. You can change it to be 0.2 or 0.3 or 2. You could change that to whatever you wanted to. And you may want to change it depending on the problem, but then always go back and kind of set it to this normal setting here. Kind of a normal setting is to have delta table to be 1. That means your x values on your table are going to change by 1 each time. Anyway, I hope this helps. I'll see you later.